Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters, the show where, as ever, we're talking all things movies, TV shows, video games and a bunch of other things in no particular order. We're now up to episode 60. My name is Regan as ever and I'm joined once again by my cursed co-host, it's Dan.
Well, cursed is definitely one of the right words you've used.
It seemed pretty apt, to be honest.
I mean, you're not wrong. Hi, everyone.
I mean, phew. Hi, Dan.
Well, we're going to have to come up with piracy names, considering we're talking about Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, hence why I went with cursed.
Well, so I'm just automatically the skeleton. Is that
yes.
some sort of knock on my physique or something, you absolute...
Well, it was either that, or, yeah, that's thanks. Wow. I'm a skeleton, Regan's round. Jesus.
Wow, this started off really dark.
I have got to record the rest of this episode with you.
Wow, this took a very, very dark turn. Jeez.
If anyone else is interested, we're taking requests immediately.
No, we need piracy names, you know what I mean? We've got Swabby Dan.
Swabby Dan.
Yeah, and then we've got Scurvy-ridden Regan.
Scurvy Regan.
Salty. No, that's you gotta have some alliteration to it or something like that. I don't know, but that's the best I can come up with.
I should be so lucky if it's just scurvy. Oh well, dear, this has gone really dark already. Yeah. But yes, I mean, we usually get pretty dark this early on in the podcast, and if that's the sort of thing that you enjoy listening to.
I like it how you're saying this with not even the ouncest of straightest face. You just know that this has gone off the rails already.
Yeah, that was very, very quick. But yeah, if this is the sort of podcast you enjoy, we're available on a variety of platforms. As ever, we're available on YouTube, properly again for the first time in a very long time, as well as Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Podbean, Pocket Casts, Castbox, probably something else. I don't think it's anything else. Yeah, I don't really want to add to the list anymore because I am going to run out of words eventually.
I'm assuming you've got some sort of ticky box of all the ones. So as you're saying them, you're gradually ticking them off when we're recording the episodes.
Yes, that is literally the case.
It's mention that one, mention that one, mention that one.
Well, when I used to do the schedules on Google Keep, that is literally how I did it. It's right, we've talked about that bit, we've talked about that bit, we talked about that for 5 minutes. And
why have I never thought of using Google Keep?
Because I use it for everything at this point. Literally everything.
Oh, well, the more you know,
yes,
apparently.
we're available on all of those listening platforms. In terms of social media, we're on Instagram. That's our main social media hub, as well as Letterboxd. We've both got profiles on there. We're also now available on Threads, which is now the Twitter-ish kind of thing from Instagram.
Well, it's kind of like a Twitter Mastodon mashup, really.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about Mastodon, frankly. So
I tried it and I thought, this isn't for me. So I'm pleased that Threads.
I think it's helped as well
better.
how it's all through Instagram anyway. So some of our followers are already followers on there, which is nice. Sharing stuff there every now and again that you can't really do on Instagram, where you don't feel as compelled because you don't have to post a photo every single time. So it's quite nice. So you can follow us on there. Even though you can't really use it on the internet yet, it's just on an app. Maybe by the time this goes out, that might have changed.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it'll be available on web within the coming weeks.
Probably, yeah. So last week's episode was on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We loved that film.
The Dial of Why.
Shout out to my good friend Nathan at work, who listened to that one and really loves the Archimedes alarm clock reference, a lot. Literally came up to us and was like, I was thinking about Archimedes alarm clock, and I was like, oh my god, you listened to it. Wasn't even planning on watching the film either. I'm like, well, that's fine because I spoiled it for you.
I know, you don't need to go see the film, just listen to us.
Yeah, so we did say, you do know that now you're going to have to think of a MacGuffin style for every single episode now. So I was like, okay, I can figure one out for this week. We will get to it. Dan's already probably picturing it in his head. But this week we are talking about the 20-year anniversary for Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl. Very, very long title for 2003. I'll get to that in the trivia section. That's an interesting one. This one was quite interesting because, I mean, for one, I haven't rewatched this film for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think I own the DVDs of the original trilogy. I think I briefly owned them on Blu-ray, and then I got rid of them eventually. I don't even think I watched it on Blu-ray, to be honest. I think I just watched the DVD constantly as a kid. And then rewatched it this week on Disney Plus in glorious 4K.
Oh yeah, it was in 4K. I kind of forgot about that.
I was slightly worried, given the fact that people always said the CGI was a bit ropey back in 2003. I'm like, well, yeah, it's 2003. I mean, it's coming out the year after Attack of the Clones, and that didn't have very good CGI. So. Phantom Menace. No. Phantom Menace is not a 4. It's not a 4 out of 5. But it was interesting because I knew I wanted to cover this one, and only because I wanted to talk about Dead Man's Chest, which we will talk about in a few weeks.
Aren't we doing the trilogy? We're doing obviously Black Pearl, Dead
We're doing the
Chest,
trilogy.
and World's End. The other
I've got nothing else to say on the other two beyond the score is great. Anyway. Well, here's the thing. I bought the Blu-ray for the 5th film, and I sold it the day after.
Good. You did the good thing. You did the good thing, Regan.
Yeah. No, so just because, for the sake of continuity, we'll talk about the first film first. Making it sound like it's a chore. It's not. It's a really great film, actually. I completely forgot how much I actually really enjoyed the first film. But for those who haven't seen it, somehow, Dan, would you like to give a little brief synopsis?
I will say, if
Doesn't
you
matter
haven't
about
seen
spoilers,
it, you have just been...
Because it's 20 years old.
Living in the depths of Davy Jones' locker for too long.
Excuse me, that is in the sequel, Dan.
Well,
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Fine, you're stuck on the island of Isla de Muerta, right?
There we go, that's better.
There we go. A reference within a reference. No, I've only seen this a handful of times, and I mean, again, much like yourself, I had the DVD of it, and I've always watched the sequels more than this one, surprisingly. I still
it's a
really like
weird
it.
One.
I did own them on Blu-ray as well for a time, and then with streaming services, I kind of just ditched my Blu-ray collection because I was running out of room.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah. Especially when you're a horror fan and like
but...
a quarter of your room is just taken up with like innumerable...
Yeah, I can bet.
Masks, posters, figurines, vinyl, books, just everything really. But no, I think 20 years old as well. That's mad, really. And it still holds up really well, I think. I mean, I haven't watched it recently. It's been a while since I've actually just watched any Pirates of the Caribbean film, in truthfulness. But it's still probably one of the best films I've watched, and obviously a childhood favourite as well. I mean, watched it frequently enough as a kid, and still absolutely love it. I used to actually have, I don't know what brand it must have been, but they had like they released like toy figures of them. So I had a Jack Sparrow, I had Captain Barbossa, I had one of the Cursed Crew. I just think it's still a really good film 20 years on, to be honest. I don't know why everyone is whinging about CGI. I mean, it's 2003. We're going to be saying this for like 50 years' time with like one of like a Marvel film 50 years later or something like that,
Well, I think it's interesting, especially with the CGI debate, because rewatching it on Disney Plus, they've clearly cleaned it up in the years since I saw it. Because I mean, it's not like utterly groundbreaking by any means, but it looks pretty solid actually compared to what I used to remember, which was really plasticky. But no, it's actually cleaned up really well, especially for a 20-year-old film, because it does look spot on. Plus, it's shot on film, so it just has that look. I still think that it was a massive risk on Disney's part. Imagine that, Disney taking risks. Never heard of that in for a very long time.
Nah.
Because you really have to sit back and remind yourself, oh yeah, this is based on a theme park ride. That's just, like, we would take the mick out of it if they did it now, which I'm sure they have. I mean, hell, we're getting another version of the Haunted Mansion this year, and that's based on a theme park ride. I mean, I know we had the Eddie Murphy film, like, in the mid-2000s or something. that was a film. But it was a gamble. But not only that, because it was like the first major blockbuster based around pirates since the likes of Cutthroat Island, which is one of the biggest box office bombs of all time. Like, I'll get to that in like the trivia section, but that really halted any possibility of pirates being remotely successful on the big screen.
I'm trying to think of like other pirate films. I mean, the only other one I can think of about is like Treasure Island or something like that.
Hot take, I don't like Treasure Island. Like,
that's the only one I can actually name off the top of my head. There's probably like some other ones or something like that, but I don't honestly know.
No, it was interesting for a while. They were trying to do like pirate stuff, but it just never worked.
Yeah.
Luckily in the case with this, over 650 million at the box office, which is nuts. I haven't really seen that kind of box office success even in 2023, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't actually remember. I mean, considering, like, I usually check up on, like, films that I've watched in cinema with the box office hits and stuff like that. I mean, you know, they make a lot of money, but it's never in the marks of, like, 600-odd million.
No, it's crazy to think about
now. Something like that.
Yeah, especially more recently when everything's just bombing. We'll definitely talk about that towards, I think it'll be the first episode in August, actually. Technically, the last one that we recorded in July, but that's like another thing. But yeah, I really appreciate the fact that it's based on the theme park ride, and it still actually really works. You've got really iconic characters, you've got a properly kick-ass score, and even like a really great story, and with like a lot of themes behind it as well, like not conforming to what society wants you to be, and how piracy and pirates kind of represents the freedom that people want.
Yeah.
I'm like, you didn't have to go that far. You could have just made it about swords and ships and explosions and rum. I'd be fine with that.
Explosions, swords, and rum.
That sounds awesome in my head.
Kind of sounds like a knockoff sequel, really. Explosions, swords,
what, like
and
4
rum.
and 5? Oh, again, I've said we're not covering 4 and 5. We'll cover the first 3, and even the third one's going to be
different,
a bit of a handful because there's a lot. But yeah, overall, I still really like this film, especially even like the casting is just absolutely on point. I mean, even the likes of Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow, just icon, frankly.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think everyone said enough about the way he's portrayed the character in like the later films, how they kind of focus more on him, when for me he's always been like the disruptor side character, technically top billing, but is really not the focus. Just kind of pops in every now and again and just causes a bit of chaos, and then runs off flailing with his arms
like a bird.
Like the bird. But it still really works. I really like that a lot.
Yeah. No, it's a very good film for its age as well. I mean, as you say, it's shot on film as well. Like, you look back, I mean, I haven't seen... Well, again, it's been ages since I've rewatched it, but, you know, Disney Plus obviously put it in 4K, which they're obviously going to do, because, you know, it's one of the best box office hits of all time. I mean, it's $600 million. Damn. I mean, we've both said, like, there's nothing in 2023 so far that has outdone that. I mean, maybe the new Mission Impossible might. I wouldn't know. I've got no interest. But, you know, people seem to absolutely have hard on for this film. So,
yeah, I'm saying that tomorrow. Technically yesterday, as of when this goes out. I'm pretty excited to see it. But yeah, it's interesting how that kind of actor doesn't really... won't say they're like box office poison by any means, but they're not exactly as popular as they used to be. Despite the success of these films, because I think Depp is absolutely terrific in it.
He is,
and I like the fact he's not the focus, because in reality, the focus is on Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley as Will and Elizabeth, which took me a very long time to really understand that it's really about them two for the entire trilogy. It's not about
but
anyone
as you
else.
say, Captain Jack Sparrow is just the chaotic instigator, because he really is.
Oh, and then some.
You know, I mean, it's their focus. Will is just a young blacksmith trying to make his way in the world. Pirates attack. And then it turns out that his future bride-to-be, we'll say, gets kidnapped by some fearsome and very cursed pirates.
Kidnapped by zombies, as you do.
Well, yeah, very skelety pirates, we'll say.
Yeah, skelety pirates.
So in some way it becomes like a pirate love adventure.
To be honest, it works.
It does. It really does, though.
Because you do actually buy it, because they are actually quite sweet together. Even if it's just... It's very funny thinking about the fact that during the filming of this, Keira Knightley was 17.
Which is mental to think. I always thought it was like early 20s or something like that.
Yeah, to be honest. And even Orlando Bloom just might as well just be a baby with a sword.
Might as well be a baby with a little hammer in the blacksmith.
Yeah, I'm picturing that.
Dong dong.
That's just the villains in like the future films. Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, that's the exact sounds the sword fighters make.
Yeah, that's the voice of Javier Bardem in the 5th film. Just wasn't a fan of him. But yeah, I mean, like, both Will and Elizabeth are two, like, seemingly different people on the outside, but are both seeking the same thing, and that's, like the want to be seen for who they want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, like, she's grown up, like, unbelievably rich, and is expected to marry Commodore Knobhead.
You know what it is?
Not on Norrington, sorry.
I knew you were going to put some sort of twist on his name. I was thinking he's going to call him Commodore Knobhead, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I do actually really like how...
I've forgotten his first name.
You have, like, 3 core characters. I mean, obviously you talk about Hector later, Hector Barbossa. But, you know, you've got Jack Sparrow, an infamous pirate. Then you've got Will, who's, you know, quite impoverished compared to the likes of Elizabeth Swann, where she's grown up high and mighty in this manor on top of a castle, more or less. Will is just basically making a living off forging swords and sleeping in, well, just a shack, really, where she's got a nice, comfy, wumpy bed.
Yeah, and as soon as you open the curtains and there's just a CGI sun with a CGI backdrop and there's a CGI boss in the CGI background.
there's a CGI everything.
She is living rich. No, she's actually living really, really cheap because she's living next to a sodding green screen. It's like that bit at the end of the first Captain America where like he wakes up and he's just on like a set. He's like, no, it's the 1940s. I'm like, I know it's not the 1940s. I can tell. I can look out the window. There's nothing there.
Sleep tight in your bedroom. Oh, you mean the sound stage?
Yeah. Oops. Sound stage 3. But no, I think like as like a trio, they work really well. Like. Extremely well.
No,
I mean,
characters
a lot
are the
of
same.
it is...
I think is what I'm trying to essentially get
exactly.
at. They all come from different backgrounds.
Same with Geoffrey Rush as Barbossa, who is the actual villain in this movie. I always forget he starts out as a villain because I'm more used to seeing the sequels where it's always left a bit ambiguous as to where his allegiances actually are.
Yeah.
But it's actually really nice to see him as just like the straight up villain. Because Geoffrey Rush is just having way too much fun in this. He's so great, but also really menacing as well in that kind of like dry humor kind of way. He's just clearly relishing every single moment he has with his hat and his feather.
I think this has got to be the best.
Sword.
I mean, obviously he's in 2 of the 3 of the other films, so we'll not talk
all
about
of them.
The third one. Oh, he's in all of them?
He's in all of them.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
yeah, he's in all of them.
But I think Curse of the Black Pearl, he's just the best in this. Because again, the dry humor and stuff like that just makes him this absolutely to-be-feared pirate. He doesn't care, to be honest. I mean, look at the stuff with when Swan gets taken aboard and she tries to do the whole parlay thing, and he just totally pulls out the Uno reverse card.
Oh yeah, he's really... That's the thing, he's really clever as well. He's like, yeah, you can say exactly what you want. I'll find a loophole. Always does. And I really like that.
But it's even the scene when she puts on the dress and stuff like that, because if she refuses, she'll go with the crew and she'll die naked. And she's just like, fine. Puts it on, she eats, and then she thinks the apples have been poisoned, stabs him, and then he just pulls it out, looks at her with this really sinister look, and he's like, "I'm curious. What is it you plan to do after you've killed me?"
Exactly.
I'm like, oh my god.
But it's great.
Oh yeah,
but it is actually
terrific.
quite interesting because he does because I always forget that, like, they talk about later on in the film, how he's actually the first mate of the Black Pearl when Jack Sparrow was the captain. He's the reason that Jack got marooned, which is just kind of funny when you think of, like, the age as well of the two of them. I'm like, surely it would be the other way around for some reason.
Yeah.
It's weird. But it's interesting, especially as you go further along. And yes, they're cursed and stuff, and they can do all this stuff. But even he's like, I miss actually being a person. Like, and that's illustrated a lot when it comes to the apple, when he drinks, like, the wine and just goes through his bones. And I really like that. It makes it just a little bit more tragic, as opposed to
he's the villain and
wants
stuff
to
like
burn
that,
everything at sea.
I mean, that whole scene when, he goes in the moonlight and his cursed form is revealed, and he's like, I can't feel anything. I can't feel the sun on my face. I can't feel the touch of a woman's hand or something like that. And it's like, okay, that's actually quite tragic, even though you're a bit of a git.
A bit of a git.
You just ruined a guy for one reason or another, but
And you got a monkey, and you named him after Jack.
Yeah, it kind of just feels like you're rubbing gunpowder on the wound there.
Yeah, that monkey, though. I hate that monkey. Like, I really hate him. I just love how there's a bit at the end of the fourth one when he's got the Black Pearl in a bottle, and he's just, like, looking right into it.
Oh yeah, and you get the monkey
just, like, swinging around, and he's just like, I hate that monkey so much.
I hate that monkey so much.
I'm like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, as do I. But yeah, I think as a villain he works really well, as does the entire crew, to be honest, especially Pintel and Rigetti, who were, like, the core ones of Barbossa's crew, who were just relishing.
You know what it is? They kind of just remind me of they're basically just the Laurel and Hardy of pirates.
Yeah, I was looking at that as well. I was also thinking of, like, Bottom as well. That the two leads in that series, they're pretty similar as well.
Yeah. But no, I mean they're
like,
still pretty, like, good villains. I mean, even the siege on the court, not the courthouse, the manor, and I think it's like the butler goes to answer it, and, like, I think it's Rigetti who just points the pistols and, "Hello, champ," just blows his head off. Like, oh.
Well, that's the thing, because it does actually get pretty dark in places, which again, for a Disney film, seems really, really weird. We've come so far, and yet not very far at all. But I miss the days of this from them. Like it's such a niche thing. Like, you don't really get pirate stuff now anywhere.
Oh no, I can't think of anything. Like, I mean, the only sort of horror film one I can think of is a one starring Michael Caine called Island, which is just a hunk of
I'm
crap.
not going to bother.
No. It's well before Pirates of the Caribbean, actually, and it's a hunk of crap.
Oh. Yeah, well, I mean, as I say, like, pirate stuff just wasn't particularly successful until this first film. And just look at the fourth film. It somehow made over $1 billion. That's crazy. That doesn't mean it's good, because it's not.
No.
It's a bit naff. I've seen worse, like the fifth one. But yeah, it's, again, I mean, like, rewatching it just reminded me, like, how much I used to watch it as a kid and how clever it actually is as well. I mean, again, it's based on a bloody theme park ride, and they put in the heavy lifting to actually make it a good movie, and I miss that. I really do.
Yeah, it's kind of mental that it's just all of this is just thanks to a theme park ride as well. It's not like some guy's kooky idea. It's actually like, we've got a theme park ride. What if it was movie?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of do that now because now it's movies getting turned into theme park rides as opposed to the other way around. I don't know which I prefer, to be honest. I I think what also helps this film as well is the score, which isn't from Hans Zimmer. I always forget that. It's from Klaus Badelt, who I don't think has done very, very much since this. But it's him that introduces all the main themes, and then Hans Zimmer just retools it for the sequels. At least up until the fifth film, I think it's like one of his projects that takes over for that one. But it's such a good score. Like, it's so good that even like where I work, there's like a fairground close by, and they've got like fairground music playing. One of them is a fairground rendition of "He's a Pirate," and I love that. I'm like, well, it's a bit out of the wrong time period, but it's fine. I don't mind because it sounds a bit ridiculous. Doesn't sound that great, frankly. I'm like, if there's one version of that theme that doesn't need to exist, it's the fairground version.
Well, to be honest, I mean, there's like a innumerable amount of versions of it in the Lego game, so...
Yeah, the Lego game is quite iconic, to be honest. I quite enjoy that one a little bit too much. But yeah, I mean, like the score, I'll still listen to constantly, to be honest. Again, just because it's always playing somewhere. And again, even with like the visuals as well, I think it's a very pretty film, especially if again, it's shot on film, so it looks quite real, despite the
I was going to say you've got that realism.
Skeletons walking around.
Plastic skeletons.
To be honest, I've always
liked the fact it's film and not just like some, big ass, big guns camera. It's just quite real that it's on film, and then all the post production stuff gets added in later, which is fine. I kind of just miss that now.
Yeah, it's. I was actually curious when it got to the bit towards the end when Barbossa's crew are walking on the ocean floor, like heading for Norrington's ship.
Yeah.
And I always remembered it visually looking a bit iffy. It really doesn't. Like, it really doesn't at all.
I don't think it looks too bad, really.
Yeah.
Can we just also admit that the score for that particular scene is just impeccable as well? Yeah.
Just like their crew theme is just brilliant. Like, I love it. Like, especially when Elizabeth gets out onto the deck at night and they're all skeletons now, all like doing whatever.
Oh yeah, and it's like a really relentless piece of music that plays over the top of it.
Oh yeah. With a lot of Keira Knightley ADR screaming. Like, it doesn't line up at all with like whatever facial expression she's making. It's just insert scream here.
Insert scream here. I also love it, the fact that these skeletons just so coincidentally happen to have a giant net as well.
As like a trampoline.
Yeah.
I'm like, I bet. The thing is, though, I like to think that is done deliberately, because occasionally they like to use it and see which crew member actually survives being in one piece as a skeleton. Because if it goes off, it's just pieces of bones everywhere. I'm picturing that now. That sounds hilarious.
Well, I can imagine them like it'd be like a Lego set that just gets dropped and smashes into like a million pieces.
Yes. Or it'll be a bit like in the sequel with one of Davy Jones's crew, and it's like a crab skull head thing.
Oh, Hadras from. Oh yes.
I'm picturing something like that, and the head's just there, just like walk towards my voice, and he just falls to pieces. And like, ugh, never mind. Poor sod. I suppose we can do a little bit of trivia. I think that could be quite funny. As I've now dubbed real trivia. That's really, really clever. Dan's eye rolling suggests it's not. It's not like you came up with a clever name for yours on Graveyard Chit Chat.
Well, no, because I just called it trivia. That's all there is to say, really. But okay, I'll give you some points. Here, have a couple of shillings.
Can I not just have like Archimedes' alarm compass instead?
No.
When I get supposed to point towards the thing that you want the most in the world, and in reality it just directs you to the Battle of Syracuse again.
What? And all you see is a giant German bomb plane just come through the sky.
Yeah. And that is my attempt to do the Archimedes alarm thingy. Thanks, Nathan. I really hope that kind of worked for you.
Archimedes.
Going to be difficult next week on remakes. But yeah, so as mentioned before, Keira Knightley was 17 when filming Curse of the Black Pearl, and her mother travelled with her to all of the shooting locations because kind of has to. That's a rule.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'd like be against the law, or it would.
Yeah, a little bit.
It would. What's the word? Violate a contract or whatever.
Probably a few.
I'm pretty sure, like,
to be honest.
I mean, it's probably no different now, but I'm sure there's like a younger age where basically you have to have an accompanying parent or guardian go with you to these shoots, essentially.
Yeah, I remember having to figure that one out when we were shooting Invasion in college, and I was like, oh god, we're going to have like child release forms and everything now because we're dealing with child actors. Bugger.
Yep.
There's a lot of things you had to deal with. Like, you couldn't like shoot at night. There was only like a few hours a day that you could
but
you do
maybe
it.
it's
But then
changed
with
now,
17, I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of an odd number. Like with 18, you're classed as an adult, but 17 is just sort of like one up from 16. So you're still a child, really.
Yeah. So the film was denied a release in China because the film contained references to ghosts, the supernatural, and the afterlife.
What?
Don't even question it.
Oh, for God's sake! What?
I can't say it's gotten any better, to be honest. I'm assuming that like the rest of the sequels were probably banned for the same reasons as well.
Oh, for God's sake!
I didn't realise that Dan was going to get that annoyed with it.
It just annoys me. Like it's not just China; it's just loads of other countries that just ban films for the stupidest of reasons. Like, you're actually going to tell me, like, At the World's End was banned in bloody, I don't know, the Philippines or something like that because they had fireworks or something. Like, it's so stupid.
I feel like I think Art World, yeah, you know what, it might have been banned in, like, one place for something similar to that, but
probably something
I don't know.
stupid.
Well, I'm going to say it's not in this section, so it's fine.
Like, did they get a screening in China and then they saw the ghost on screen? Oh my god, we're going to ban it! It's too scary!
Yeah, probably.
Sick.
Originally, Johnny Depp wanted Jack Sparrow to have no nose and be afraid of silly things like pepper and the common cold. Disney rejected the idea. I wonder why. I think it's because it's stupid, to be honest.
Who knows? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Except Jack Sparrow. So I mentioned before, like, how the title is extremely long. The title was originally just Pirates of the Caribbean, but the subtitle, The Curse of the Black Pearl, was added at the request of then Disney chairman Michael Eisner 5 months prior to the film's release. Mostly just in case it was successful enough to warrant a bunch of sequels. So, you know, they were thinking about that even, like, before the film was even finished. As well as for appeal to adolescent audiences. The director, Gore Verbinski, who did a terrific job, by the way, I didn't actually reference him, really disliked the idea of doing that because it doesn't make sense for the film because the curse is on the Aztec gold, not the ship.
Yeah.
So, as a compromise... Disney promised that when they put the subtitle on the title, they would make the font as small as possible.
Well, it's still there. It's not making a difference.
So the people wouldn't notice.
But people are for
I'm like,
God's sake.
I'm like, if that's the case, just call it Pirates of the Caribbean 1. If you know it's going to be a sequel at some point.
What's the harm in just having no subtitle on it anyway? Because again, that is a pretty stupid thing to do. In terms of titling, because again, it's not the curse on the ship, it's the curse on the Aztec gold, so why not just call it that? The curse on the ancient Aztec gold or something like that. But then again, that would be an even longer title.
And it also sounds terrible.
Yeah, it does.
Sorry, that was harsh.
But
well,
the point being,
it's
that
not
like,
as bad
even if they didn't have a title and it did warrant numerous sequels, what's the harm in just having it as Pirates of the Caribbean? Because then you've got the next film, which has a title and a subtitle. What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly. So obviously Johnny Depp plays Jack Sparrow. Wasn't the original idea. They actually looked to Robert De Niro, who was actually offered the role of Jack Sparrow, which is very interesting. That's a very different actor entirely.
That is a very, very different actor.
Yeah, but he declined, thinking that the movie wouldn't do well at the box office as many other pirate movies hadn't done in the past. Though he was proven wrong, so because of that, he accepted the role of Captain Shakespeare in the movie Stardust from 2007. I don't think I've seen that one. I think I might have seen bits and bobs of it, but not a whole lot. And the final bit, this is on Cutthroat Island that I mentioned before. So this was another pirate film that was released back in 1995, 1996-ish. I think it got released in the US first and then came out afterwards. Directed by Rennie Harlan, actually. Oh. Who did one of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, as it turns out, number 4.
Yes, he did.
And had a hand in a bunch of the Die Hard stuff as well. So this had a budget between $92 and $98 million. Would you like to know how much money it made worldwide?
Okay, so when was this?
1995, 1996.
1995, right? Well,
because you have to remember it's nearly $100 million budget. You have to double it in order for it to break even.
Well, I'm guessing it bombed.
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
Significantly.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was its result?
10.
10 mil.
10 million it is. Yeah. Debuted at number 13 at the US box office. One of the most expensive box office flops of all time. Rumored to have lost the studio $147 million.
Oh dear.
147. When adjusted for inflation, I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice.
It's even more now.
Adjusted and it's held, has it?
No, it didn't. It didn't help.
No. And its failure caused the closing of Carolcore Pictures, who helped to finance the film. It killed it. It killed an actual studio.
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, if they've sank a lot into it and it's only made 10 mil back, you may as well just sign your closure documents here.
Yeah, to be honest, I think especially because the production was awful. Like so many rewrites and recasts, a lot of things breaking, actors being injured, being sick, and everything. It was just an awful,
just a disaster.
Production. Yeah, so suddenly I'm glad it didn't make a lot of money because then we can just leave it. But it was that film that stopped the idea of doing pirate stuff until Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl. As I say, over 650 million, so it clearly worked. It clearly struck a chord with some people. Hence why it got 4 sequels. And it's interesting, cause especially rewatching it in 2023. I was curious, like, does it still hold up? Yeah, I think it does. It's just a lot of fun. It really is.
It's a childhood film, so it's always kind of going to be with you. I mean, yeah, you might change your opinion on it slightly, but I mean, I still really like it. It's not my favorite Pirates of the Caribbean film. That's actually the sequel, but.
Yeah, I'm curious if that's still going to hold up for me, because I have also always said that Dead Man's Chest was my favourite of, well, not just the 3, but all 5. Because, I mean, let's face it, anything with Davy Jones and the Kraken and that, I'm like, yeah, I'm there.
Oh yeah, you're instantly down. I mean, it's because it's an interesting villain, but I mean, Barbossa is just badass in this film, man.
Oh, he's great. He really is. Even if 4 of the 5... Pirates of the Caribbean films, the villains all have beards in some shape or form.
Yeah, seems
the
to be
only
a common thing in these films, doesn't it?
Only one who doesn't is Javier Bardem in the final film, but that's because he's missing a lot of limbs anyway because he's a ghost. But
yeah, he's seen better days
for some reason. See better days. But Gonna have to maroon me with no rum. Gonna have to get a couple of sea turtles. But no, I am curious when we do discuss the second one. Because actually, one of the only issues I've got with this film is actually just the runtime. I think it's a bit too long. Like, when we do get to Isla de Muerta initially, it does kind of feel like the film's about to wrap up and then go off again for 45 minutes and then just come back again. Seems a bit redundant. I feel like a lot of that could be kind of condensed, but then we would miss the iconic line of, "But why is the rum gone?" I agree. I just
love his little tantrum after that as well. Must have been horrible for you, Jack. What a terrible thing. What it bloody is now.
Yes, now.
Like, he just looks back and there's like an absolute cloud of smoke from the rum.
Yeah. And then he looks up in the distance. Yeah. And then like it looks into the distance and the ship is there and he's like, well, there's no living with her now. Like, he's just really disappointed that she was right.
Yeah.
It's like, fine.
But
I still really like it, to be honest. It was a lot of fun rewatching it, especially because, especially nowadays, I'm just really terrified of going back and rewatching movies I used to watch as a kid, because I'm like, does it still work?
Because a lot of them just...
yes, it does.
The majority of them, I think, still hold up, but some are just like, wow, this did not age well. But Pirates of the Caribbean is the one that actually is in the good chart, because it still holds up fantastically all these years later.
Yeah.
And for only rewatching it like maybe a couple of years ago or something like that, and still remember a lot about the film, but it shows how memorable it actually is, though.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking to myself, could I just talk about the movie without rewatching? I thought, no, I still will, because it's a pretty easy film to recommend anywhere. It's a bit like when we cover like Simpsons Hit and Run coming up in September. I don't need to replay that because I've played it 150,000 times, so it's absolutely fine. It's just like a kind of like muscle memory thing in my brain. Very easy to talk about. But yes, I think that basically wraps up our thoughts on Pirates of the Caribbean. The Curse of the Aztec Gold is actually the Black Pearl, because Disney is stupid. Even longer title.
Pirates of the Caribbean and the exceptionally long title. Almost as bad as Birds of Prey or the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, I think it's called, or something. Ridiculous title. We shouldn't do that. Okay, he's back. Yeah, all I heard was Birds of Prey and then stopped.
Yeah, because it's a really short title, actually.
Yeah, it seems to be Pirates of the Caribbean and the Curse of the Black Pearl, or is it the Cursed Aztec Gold? We're not too sure.
And there's a comma in there as well.
Yeah.
And there's a question mark.
Yeah, question mark at the end.
Yeah, and like a hyphen somewhere as well, just like for fun. But yes, that is our thoughts on Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Nice to talk about a nice movie for once, compared to last week when we were just sort of like
the real
full-on rants,
the real ranters.
The real pod ranters. Luckily, we're not that this week, whereas that episode was the longest one we've done in a very long time. This is already one of the shortest, because we don't need to rant about it. We both really like it. Here's some stuff that we like there at the end. That's nice.
Yeah.
That happens every now and again. Next week, though, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that has been our thoughts on Pirates of the Caribbean. Next week, we are... I wouldn't really say it's a top 5. Probably cover a few. But we're going to be discussing remakes, because we haven't actually discussed that yet on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised you haven't done that a lot earlier.
Yeah, I think it's just because Disney decided to just remake a lot of things in the last couple of years. I'm like, yeah, maybe we'll talk about it.
Maybe it's time.
Maybe it's time. So yeah, we'll be discussing like the state of like remakes in Hollywood and just highlight a few that we actually like. Because funny enough, there is actually a few.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, pretty few and far between, but they're there.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the best definition of it.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I haven't compiled my list yet.
Oh, I have.
Oh, you have already. Oh, you see, you're already on it, Dan.
I'm
already
just
on it.
prepared.
Yeah, I'm not. But yes, you can look forward to that next week. We also have an upcoming episode on Graveyard Chit Chat, probably at some point in the next week. What is the topic of discussion on that, Dan?
Well, I will say now that we did record A Nightmare on Elm Street, which was originally going to be episode 21, but due to technical issues, that is sadly cancelled. There's nothing we can really do about it. So we're just rescheduling it for next year with the 40th anniversary of A Nightmare on Elm Street next year, because it's just very difficult to kind of fit it in back into the schedule for re-recording this year. So figured, why not do it for the 40th anniversary next year? But next week we are talking about The Thing from 1982, a film by John Carpenter. I am very much looking forward to rewatching that.
Yeah, it's a garbage film, isn't it?
God, you absolute...
I don't have to worry, Dan, this time. He already knows that I quite like it. I don't love it, though. That'll be interesting
Norris
to discuss,
creature.
though. I don't know what that means.
It's the
And I've seen the film.
spider head thing.
It's called Norris.
Yeah.
Is that why the cat in Harry Potter's called Mrs. Oh, never mind. It doesn't matter. Yeah, we'll be talking about The Thing on Graveyard Chit Chat, and we'll be discussing remakes on episode 61 of The Real Podcasters. Thank you very much for listening. As ever, links in the description to all our social media and other listening platforms. If you've gotten through all this on one platform and thought, no, I want to listen to it on a different platform.
I mean, there's plenty there.
I've literally just decided.
There's plenty there. So if you're bored with YouTube, then go to Spotify. If you're bored with Spotify, go to, Audible or something like that.
Podbean.
I mean...
No one's going to choose Podbean. I'm saying that we're on Podbean anyway. Just people are so indecisive. Though, if you do listen to it on Spotify, there'll probably be a poll kind of thing that I put up every now and again. That's usually quite fun. So, yeah, you can check that one out. But yeah, we'll be back next week for remakes and The Thing on another podcast. But thank you very much for listening. It's goodbye from Dan.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.